1961. Rice provided 1,000 acres for the new NASA Center, land that had been donated to the university by Humble Oil Company, now ExxonMobil. Additional land, just over 600 acres along what is now NASA Parkway, was bought for $1.4 million. JSC was built to look like a college campus, to encourage a spirit of collaboration and innovation, a tradition that continues today. We're now approaching Rocket Park. We'll take a closer look at the rockets on the way back. Why do we willingly take the risks and make the economic investment to fly in space? Astronaut Katie Coleman offers some answers.
Humans have always had a basic inborn need to learn, to understand, and to explore. Now, we look to space, beyond our Earth, to other worlds, and maybe eventually to other star systems. If we follow our need to learn and discover, and if we continue to provide the inspiration, motivation, and opportunities that space exploration offers the world's youth, our advances during 500 are many times over.
Ahead, on your right, is Building 17, home of Orion, the flagship of our nation's next-generation space fleet. Astronauts will ride Orion far beyond low Earth orbit, on deep space missions to asteroids and to Mars. The Orion Project Office is leading this historic development effort from here in Houston, making the Johnson Space Center responsible for the Orion crew module, crew training, and mock-up facilities, as well as mission control. This building also houses the Space Food Systems Laboratory, where food scientists develop and process food for space flights. Most food is made from scratch and freeze-dried or thermostabilized. Since there is no cold storage for food on the station, these scientists have developed more than 100 foods that meet nutrition and palatability requirements and can be stored up to 3 years at room temperature. Celebrity chefs, including Emeril Lagasse and Rachel Ray, have worked with the Space Food Systems Laboratory to contribute recipes to spice up astronaut meals.
If you guys look off to your left, you'll see an American flag flying over the Christopher C. Kraft Jr. Mission Control Center. Now, the Stars and Stripes fly as long as we have an American astronaut in space, and it's been flying for almost 15 consecutive years. We currently have American astronaut Scott Kelly in space as a member of Expedition 44, which also includes 1 Russian astronaut and 1 Italian. Now, please remain seated until the tram comes to a full and complete stop. Once it has, you may exit to the right-hand side of the tram, and the right side only. You guys are going to follow me up the stairs to your right in those doors. Thank you. I'm going to remind you guys once again to please remember what row you're sitting in, as you'll be returning to these same seats. Our driver Fernando, and will assist you with the elevator. Once we get upstairs, it will be a cinema-like setting, so I'm going to ask everyone to keep their voices down so everyone can hear the mission control hosts and their fantastic presentation. Also, we are still in communication with the International Space Station, so please silence your cell phones now. Once again, you must please silence your cell phones now, as we don't want the signals to cross and cause a problem. Like I said, just a moment, we're going to head on upstairs. You guys are free to take as many photos as you like once we get up there, but I would say no flash photography, okay? Once again, no flash photography. Like I said, we're going to be heading upstairs shortly, but we are waiting for the last group to finish filing out.
We're celebrating our 50th anniversary. We started mission operations from this facility back in 1965. And have continued them on to today and, of course, on into tomorrow, which is what brings us to this room, known as Flight Control Room White. It was brought online in 1995 when the new south wing of the building was completed, and it controlled 66 shuttle missions until the end of the shuttle program in 2011, which at that point we took out all the old consoles and put the ones that you see in here in the room. We have been upgrading and testing and running simulations here in this room for the past year, making sure everything is ready to go to control the International Space Station, because we want to upgrade that room where they're currently controlling it, which you can see here on the TV screen, International Laboratory. So the entire global support structure of 15 nations all feeds into that room to support the science that is conducted on board there from Monday through Friday, and on Saturday and Sunday It's their day off. So they can email, do FaceTime with family and friends, their own pet projects. They still have to exercise and maintain all the flight systems of the most complex vehicle built in human history, but after that, you have a bit of the day to yourself. From this room here in a couple of months, so we can upgrade that room, and that way we will have 3 21st century flight control rooms. And that will be for the Orion, which we tested in December of last year. It's our new crew vehicle, essentially for taking us up and then bringing us back down from deep space. When you're orbiting around the Earth like the International Space Station is, you can see it flying into the Indian Ocean right now, that red circle with the white icon. You're going at a nice leisurely 17,500 miles an hour, or about 8 kilometers every second. It's nice and slow. It's just barely fast enough to make sure you don't fall back to the Earth. When you go to the Moon, you go at 24,900 miles an hour. Still pretty slow, just barely fast enough to escape Earth's gravity, just enough to get out 250,000 miles and then let the Moon grab you and you end up in orbit. But when you come back, all that energy has to dissipate, so you come back at 24,900 miles an hour, which means this is 1.5 times faster than orbital velocity, than the speed you need to orbit, but you experience 5 times the heating. The atmospheric pressures and conditions as you pass through the Earth's atmosphere to spill off all that energy that initially sent you out into deep space, and now that you're coming back, well, that's even more severe as well. So a space plane like the shuttle, just even if it had the thermal systems and the electrical power and the propulsion to get you out into deep space, the simple design of a space plane isn't very good at coming back from deep space, which is the reason why we went back to the capsule concept design with the Orion. We also have a new rocket called the SLS, which will be larger and more powerful than the mighty Saturn V. At first, we will take the Orion out into Earth orbit, test it out, then orbit the Moon, and by the mid-2020s, the more powerful version of the SLS will be ready, and we will assemble an interplanetary spacecraft, which I think is totally cool that I get to say that now, an interplanetary spacecraft. And we will take it out to visit asteroids close to the Earth. Then by 2030, we will take it out to visit Phobos and Deimos, which are basically just captured asteroids, and now they're the moons of Mars. And by the late 2030s, early 2040s, we will go down and land on the surface of the red planet. Now, no matter what era in spaceflight you are flying in, the look of mission control might look a little different, computers, modern technology, but the layout and the support structure is essentially the same. Every console is designated to a particular set of systems that monitor either the crew's activities or some system on board the spacecraft, or even systems down here on Earth that are part of the infrastructure. Over here on this side of the room, all the consoles are devoted in general to us people. Over here, in general, are devoted to the vehicle, like, say, Kronos, for example, monitoring the software systems, the primary computers of the International Space Station, and its communication systems. You have Capcom, who is the capsule communicator, the person that will talk to the astronauts. The front row is the trench, where the rocket scientists sit, making sure that propulsion systems are working, navigation systems are working, your trajectory is what it needs to be, so you don't get lost in space like the Robertson family did. That was really bad. We don't want that happening to our astronauts. TV show Danger Will Robinson, Lost in Space. Alright, I will omit from the rest of my presentation all classic science fiction jokes, Isaac Asimov. Finally, we have the flight director or flight. They are the person that is in charge of the mission. No one can override them, and that's mission control. But what's really cool is about this place, this building, is down the hall from here, 1 floor up, there's a room that controlled all 9 Apollo flights to the moon. And the first words spoken from the moon on Apollo 11 on July 20th were Houston Tranquility Base here, the Eagle has landed. The last words spoken on the surface of the moon on Apollo 17 back in December of 1972, the last trip that we've taken so far to the moon with humans, where we have ignition Houston. The first words and the last words spoken from another place in the universe were Houston. And when we go to Mars, the first words will also be Houston, and they'll be transmitted to the room that you see in front of you. You are in the building not only where humankind's journeys to other worlds began, you are where they continue to this day. Because when you go into space, so long as you go to explore, this is where you will call. Because this is Houston. This is home. This is mission control. On behalf of everyone who works here at the Johnson Space Flight Center, thank you for your time and attention. Enjoy the rest of your tour, and thank you.
It was 1967. America's space program was under immense pressure to make good on President Kennedy's promise to get a man to the moon before the end of the decade. On January 27th, tragedy struck the Apollo program. Flight director Gene Kranz remembers that day.
We were in mission control, testing the Apollo command and service module.
A flash fire broke out in the command module. 3 astronauts, Virgil Gus Grissom, Ed White, and Roger Chapman, died in the accident.
And we wrote 2 words into our vocabulary in mission control. Tough and confident. Tough, meaning we will never get shirk from our responsibility. Because we are forever accountable for what we do, or in the case of Apollo 1 and our crew, what we failed to do. Confident. We will never take anything for granted, because as a team, failure in mission control is never an option.
Off to your left, across the fields, where the Morpheus lander performed some of its early hot fire and tethered flight testing. NASA's Morpheus project has developed and tested a prototype planetary lander capable of vertical takeoff and landing, a full-scale vehicle sized to carry an 1,100-pound payload, such as a humanoid robot or a rover, to the surface of an asteroid or the moon. Also on your left is Building 20, which is among the first of a new generation of energy-efficient government buildings. Building 20 is distinguished as the first LEED Platinum building at the Johnson Space Center. This building uses 55% less energy than a comparable office building. That included nearly 30% recycled content. Its many green features include rooftop solar collectors, which heat water, and motion sensors that will automatically turn on and off office lighting. The United States flew its first multinational mission in July 1975. The Apollo-Soyuz test project was the first joint U.S.-Soviet space mission. Last flight of the Apollo space program. Apollo-Soyuz provided useful engineering experience for future joint efforts, such as the shuttle program and today, the International Space Station.
The United States wanted to get into a long-duration space flight because they were planning an International Space Station, and the Russians were leading experts on long-duration space flight.
Astronaut Shannon Lucid lived and worked aboard the Mir space station.
We were sent over to Russia. We lived in Star City for a year before the flight, and we had to learn Russian. And I lived on Mir for 6 months with Yuri Onoforenko, who was the commander, and Yuri Usachev, who was the board engineer.
Between 1998 and 2011, International Space Station components were launched on the Space Shuttle and on Russian rockets and assembled on orbit piece by piece. Now the size of a football field, this scientific research facility orbits the Earth at an altitude of approximately 260 miles, the result of a partnership of 5 different space
allows us to train in our spacesuits and become essentially weightless underwater. The training, up to 6 hours underwater for every hour of a spacewalk, gives us valuable insight on what we'll be accomplishing in space.
NASA also uses a jet that can create short periods of microgravity by flying on a parabolic trajectory. To your right is the Mission Simulator and Training Facility. NASA astronauts since the Gemini program has trained. Today, it houses high-fidelity simulators of different modules of the International Space Station, which are used to help prepare astronauts to live and work in weightlessness, including how to perform science experiments in the station's lab. Control Center here at JSC, hooked in with the Payload Operations Integration Center in Huntsville, Alabama, where they can be tied into the mission control centers of NASA's International Space Station partner nations in Russia and in Japan. Just north of here is Ellington Airport, a City of Houston-owned airfield with a commercial, military, and NASA presence. Ellington Airport is the heart of Johnson Space Center's flying operations. Functional at Ellington is the training of astronauts for spaceflight. The field is also a base for administrative, cargo transport, and high-altitude aircraft. Many types of NASA aircraft have the hangars. The flight instruction group stationed at Ellington Airport also manages a T-38 simulator, which is housed in the Mission Simulator and Training Facility. It is used to train astronauts in the operation of the T-38 training aircraft. You might have seen those planes flying overhead already today. The T-38s are used by all astronauts to help them become adjusted to communicating quickly and making decisions in a high-speed environment. Like other shuttle commanders and pilots, Captain Chris Ferguson commanded NASA's final shuttle mission, STS-135, kept sharp by flying the T-38 Talon jet training.
If anyone is familiar with the movie Top Gun, they'll recognize